video, I'm going to talk about metaphor. Metaphor is the language that we designed to solve a problem that we encountered using AI. And the problem is one you're probably all familiar with. The problem is that when you start having a chat or a conversation with an AI, quite often that conversation will wander off in some random direction and not end up where you wanted it to go. And then once you've done that, it's very, very difficult to bring it back to where you wanted it to be and to get it to go in a different direction. So one of the things we know about AI is that each conversation is unique and separate. They don't join together. They don't remember conversations in one place and another necessarily. So the nice thing about this is if we start out with all the information we need for a conversation, if we discover something doesn't work during that conversation, we can either change that and start again, or we can start from exactly the same point and just take it in a different direction. So metaphor is designed to allow us to construct those initial conversations, those initial prompts to start the conversation with the AI. And effectively what it's doing is creating you a custom AI that knows specifically about the problem you want to go and solve. So I'm going to start by showing you this Hello Metaphor file. Hello Metaphor is a project that you can find on the M6R AI GitHub. You can find links on the website. So this shows you the basic structure of a metaphor file, and there's three core elements to a metaphor file. The first is the role. The role is the persona that we want the AI to take on. AIs have been trained with an enormous amount of information. Some of that information is extremely high quality in particular areas and has been trained with the best and the brightest information that we have as a human race. Other of that information is less good. It's from people asking questions and people learning and trying to understand, but they're not necessarily things that you want to reproduce. So you really want that very, very best experience. So in this particular case, we're telling the AI that we want it to use the world-class Python developer learnings that it has, the very best in terms of being that type of software engineer. And the same is true for other sorts of roles. So you can pick a role and ask it to be the very best example of that role. Then we have the context, and what the context is doing is telling the AI what we want to do and why. The why is actually quite important, a bit like when you're motivating a team of people, you need them to understand why you want to do something in order to get them to buy in and help you do it. It helps the AI to understand how it's going to help you. So what we're doing is we're saying here that we want it to demonstrate the power of metaphor as a way of describing problems to an AI and serve as a basis of a tutorial. And then to do that, we want it to actually write us some software. So the software we want, we're describing the behavior of that software. So we're not describing what the software is, we're describing what it should do when it runs. It's very, very simple, but that's the idea. Now what we do with the context is over time we can refine it. And in fact, this is something that we do when we're using metaphor, is we often start out with very, very simple context, and over time we add more and more to it. And in fact, you can have a conversation with the AIs about the things that they would want to see and questions they would have. You can ask them, what questions would you have about this? And they come back and say, this is unclear, or perhaps we could add something about this. And it allows you to expand this section out to the point where very quickly the AI is able to work out what you want to do and why you want to do it. And it also helps you to do some of the thinking about what you want to do and why as well. Then finally, we have the action. Now the action, you don't have to put it in the metaphor file. You could actually leave that blank and then you could type it in the prompt yourself. But the action in this particular case is we want it to actually build the software and also write a document about this software once it's written. So here's a very, very simple metaphor file. Now we're running inside of Humbug. One of the things Humbug can do is it can actually start a conversation based on a metaphor file. And when it does that, what it actually does is it compiles that file down. There's a built-in compiler inside of Humbug that adds some things, takes the comments out, does some checks, makes sure that certain things are right. And that, in this particular case, is going to generate this prompt. You'll notice it didn't actually start the conversation. All it's done is it's actually put in a bunch of information here that is the beginning of a conversation. And the reason for this is because we can then go and edit it. So like I said, you can actually not put that action. You could actually put something in yourself at this point. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to start the conversation, send that message, and that allows the AI backend to actually go away and do what we asked. So what it's done in this particular case, you can see it actually wrote the program that we wanted, this very simple Hello Metaphor program, and it also wrote us that markdown description file that allows somebody to know what this software does. So here's an example of using Metaphor in a simple way to actually achieve a result. Now the nice thing is we could go and change that. We could go and change the metaphor and add new things to it, and then it will do something different if we were to have a new conversation. So as a demonstration of that, we can go back to our hello metaphor file. And in this particular case, I'm going to say I want it to do something slightly different. So we're going to say hello world from Metaphor. So we're going to save that away. And what we'll actually do is we'll start a new conversation. So we're going to start a new Metaphor conversation. So this is going to be a new one here. And you'll see that it's actually produced a slightly different program. So in this particular case, it's now saying hello world from Metaphor, and you've got a slightly different description. So as you find with other AIs, each time you do this, especially when you're asking it to do something new, it'll do it slightly different ways each time. And again, that's one of the reasons why we provide the context. The more you provide in the context, the less likely it is to start to try and do creative and different things each time. It can actually anchor that to the things in the context. But that, hopefully this demonstrates to you some of the core ideas of Metaphor. What I'm going to do in another tutorial is talk about some other more advanced capabilities. So please watch out for that video as well. If you like what you've seen, then you can follow our YouTube channel. You can also check out more on the m6r.ai website, and it's got links to everything there as well. Thank you for watching.